Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crystal Core Radio Podcast. Brian and Chris here bringing you the live letter summary, diving more into details of 6.2, the dates, releases, content, and so much more. If you're tuning us live over here on Twitch and over on Final Fantasy, our Ginger XIV, we're going to be hanging out summarizing this live letter for you. Also, we'll discuss the different topics and more as well. Chris, what's up, dude?
So, first of all, thank you to the Final Fantasy XIV Reddit community. Thank God you see Muna and Luna's name here, but thank God for the team that live translates this for us, gives us that unofficial translation for the huge chunk of the world that does play 14 but does not speak Japanese. And then also thank you to everybody we have just hit our August subscriber goal over on Twitch, so we will have some bonus streams at the end of this month. I have some events next week, and Brian has an event today. Anyway, so we have lots of events, but that will trigger an additional one. And Pharma Girl, Book Boy, and KO Writer did an enormous amount of gifting that pushed that to the last little bit. But thank you to each and every one of you that hang out with us every month. And then those of you that are able and willing to make a monetary portion of that, it makes a huge difference in both of our lives.
Absolutely.
So
we got a lot to talk about. I'm going to say thanks for the likes. Also, if you guys enjoyed these podcasts, you can find them wherever podcasts are found. So we take these and we actually bring them into an audio format. So you guys want to listen to those as well. Check all the links, but you can always search any podcast platform, Crystal Core Radio, and it should bring us up. So if you give us a rating, that'd be great. That's a great way of helping its discovery as well. So on that note, live letter kicks off with the trailer as expected. We got some beautiful images and artwork that is just highlighting the first part, the Island Sanctuary. Now, we watched the English version of this, and so some of the lore ramifications seem pretty exciting, but clearly we are going into the world of darkness from the trailer. We already really kind of surmised that, but we're seeing some of the bosses. We're starting to see some of the raids and so much more. We see kind of a little tease of Hildebrand kind of stuck in the moon to some degree. What moon? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. The patch being Buried Memory, and the release date being August 23rd as predicted for this patch. And then we're starting to speculate now on the half patch, which will include the Criterion dungeons somewhere maybe October 18th
or later.
Yeah. So let's start with how they open, and because that was a very packed trailer, and we probably will also maybe do kind of a breakdown of the trailer individually in the specific video. But Chris, why don't you take over?
So with that coming August 23rd, keep in mind that this is talking about all of 6.2. So we've got half patch content that's like sometime, let's say late October, 2 months after this. And that's all going to be in here as well. So we're looking at the half patch and the main patch content. The main patch content, of course, going to start us off with story. Now, Buried Memory, the interview this week did say Buried Memory is in reference to both the raid story and the main story. So there's a little double meaning there. Mm-hmm. And so as we look at Buried Memory, that's your big clue. These always look like really obvious clues in hindsight. This will be new story, new MSQ, but we will also get a new dungeon. We just get one dungeon per patch now. And then we will get a new trial. They told us nothing about the trial because it is tied to the main scenario. So that's all just main scenario content right there. In addition to that, we're getting the side content that Brian just clicked on with Tataru's Grand Endeavors coming back for more. It was really quick the first time, so I'd love to see that do a little bit more. And then somehow further Hildebrand. Remember, Hildebrand is very long if you want to stop and savor it. It's very quick if you're story skipping it because it's mostly story, mostly cutscenes. But it's a lot to get through from ARR to now if you want to take part in that, because that is going to be tied to our relic system this time around.
Mm-hmm. And for the Disciples of Gathering, Disciples of Land, the Omnicrons are going to be making their appearance as a tribal quest. All the quests that used to be formerly known as Beef's Tribe should be now classified at least as tribal. And the Omnicrons are going to be doing gathering. So it looks like we have we're working on that bar. People, who have completed the Endwalker story probably know what I'm referencing. And if you haven't, don't worry. I'm not going to spoil it for you. So it's exciting to see them kind of return. They showed off that insane jellyfish mount, the space jellyfish, which is just wild and crazy to see how that kind of is playing out. So honestly, I think that's going to be exciting. I haven't done the crafting mounts themselves, and I just got coffee delivered to me. So
We'll
with
get to dive
Preservant.
into a lot more of this in more detail as we go. So we're just going to get this kind of summary portion out of the way. This is mostly catch-up stuff. So the new dungeon is called the Fell Court of Toria, and the new trial and its extreme will be available on day one. They haven't told us anything about that. Now, it is time for the new raids. And so the new raids is Pandemonium Abyssos and Pandemonium Abyssos Savage. Savage, for the first time ever, not tied to an expansion, is going to have a delay of 1 week. This is them trying that out. They didn't change anything about tomes. They just tried this one thing, and then based on feedback, they'll decide what to do with future patches. Maybe they remove the delay. Maybe they delay the way tomestones work, or they change the way tomestones work. We'll have to see. But this is just for some original feedback. I hope people really enjoy this. We'll also be getting the Unreal Sephiroth there. So for those of you that have not cleared Ultima and want to try the Unreal system, it's very easy to get it. So go ahead and get that under your belt, because Sephiroth's likely going to be a fair bit harder. As we go on to main scenario, we have been looking back. And so Brian here is showing a screenshot of the Steps of Faith trial.
Yeah.
That is now going away as a trial and will be a solo quest battle there with the quest NPCs, and so you see some familiar faces. We are also
the Mog fight. The 8-man is getting updated as well, but the extreme is actually staying the same. So they're going through and modifying the dungeons to support this more of the single player ease of access to the story. And Steps of Faith was highlighted also in the trailer, which confused me. Like when I saw that, I was like, "Whoa, we're going back to step like what?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, that's okay. I got you."
So the duty support system is expanding. It will go all the way through the 3.0, kind of those dungeons you get along the way. So Snowcloak, Keeper of the Lake, Psalm All, Airy, and the Vault are all joining that 4-man support. Keep in mind that's only MSQ 4-man. So anything larger than 4-man, not yet supported. They're looking at a 7.0. Anything not MSQ, so no Dusk Vigil and all that. When there was questions, hey, how come RM Veil didn't get launched in when they did the ARR stuff? Remember, we'll get the rest of Heaven's Word with 6.3, then we'll move into Stormblood support for in 6.4, 6.5 timeframe.
Yeah.
And then everything Shadowbringers and later is already supported. So that kind of handles that.
Yeah. What's interesting in terms of the timing is that we know we're getting the variant and criterion dungeons 6.25, but in 6.3, we're not seeing that system expand, because I think obviously they're focusing on finishing up some of those past dungeons. And then in 6.4, we'll see more investment into the variant and criterion dungeon system as well. And they did promise PvP adjustments and PvE adjustments in terms of the jobs. They didn't obviously go into much detail here, but they said they're going to start actually explaining their thought process in the patch notes and on the job guides, just to help kind of hopefully ease some of that initial stress when people see that their job might be changing in some way. We do still know that Dragoon and Astrologian changes have been delayed until 7.0, meaning outside of like potency adjustments, any kind of rework or redesign is going to happen in the 7.0 expansion for those two jobs listed specifically.
And we have a ridiculous amount of side content. Variant and Criterion are going to be the half patch, which means Island Sanctuary is coming now.
Yeah.
6.2. So we're going to see a lot of Island Sanctuary details in this live letter, and we'll get into those because that is coming right away. We'll also see a lot of Variant and Criterion. And keep in mind, though, those are the half patch. So that is at least 2 months after the 23rd. We don't have a date on that yet. Like I said, I believe October 18th is the earliest Tuesday that I would predict it at. It could easily be as late as maybe the first Tuesday in November is kind of the range that I would put on it now.
Yeah.
And then we'll adjust that range and get more accurate as we get more information.
Now this is, go ahead. Yeah. If you want to jump in.
Yeah. So Adventure Plates. I don't know how much you engaged with the Adventure Plate system, Brian,
a little
but
bit.
I tried it out.
Yeah.
I
like
it a little cumbersome.
Well, it was. And so they're reworking it. So it's going out of beta into release. And they stated in the last live letter that your plates are going to be deleted. However, they have made a clarifying statement that says that if it is linked to your like adventure, like your gear set, that you'll actually keep it. So if you guys have adventure plates, be sure to make sure that you've got those linked up so that way you don't end up losing it in the conversion. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm happy to see that. I know a lot of people put some serious work into it, and I'm glad they're simplifying it because I was finding myself going like, oh, I thought I had that, and realizing that there was extra steps that I missed. But it's the coolest. I think it adds a lot of personality to the content, and to see that, and then obviously they want to bring that into more of the content, like the dungeons and more, that I think will actually just continue to add flavor to the play.
So hopefully that'll expand to other systems. Remember, it was originally designed to be an expansion on the PvP system. So
Yeah.
as it gets PvE rewards, that's like, it makes sense that that's going to take them some time to get there. We are moving into our next tombstone. So for anybody that's new and this is their first expansion to be kind of on patch, we make massive gear jumps on the even numbered patches, 0.0, 0.2, 0.4, and then the odd numbered patches tend to feel a little more like catch up to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's when your alliance rate is 0.1, 0.3, 0.5. And so we are going into the Allegan tombstones of causality. There will be new crafted gear. And speaking of crafters, if you don't like leveling yours, but you like being able to repair gear, you will now have the ability to repair other players' gear or request repairs from other players, both in or out of duties.
This is a 1.0 feature that us 1.0 players have been asking for it to come back since 2.0, and so I'm thrilled to see this make a return. Thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of just making things a little bit easier to kind of push through for people, those of you that use the actions pane to try to drag actions on bars, I'd love it to still kind of highlight the ones that are maybe missing from your bar in case you accidentally misplaced one, just so you know it's missing. But there is now going to be a second layout for that screen, an optional layout that will help you show the abilities, not just in the order you unlock them, but instead in the order they are used in combo sequences, so you can better understand your rotation. Keep in mind that with this, we also have a bunch of just other quality of life things, such as your glamour dresser has doubled with the launch of this patch. So we are going from 400 to 800 slots. Ishpi said, please don't put everything in there. I know you guys are already going to ask for more.
Yeah.
But that's big. That's big.
And they're also working on their preparations for the 7.0 graphical update. So they're talking about some of the things by adding in dynamic resolution functions currently in beta, adjustments to the resolution of 3D graphics according to the current GPU burden. And this is going to be an editable setting. So I think over the course, as we get closer and closer to 7.0, we're going to see more and more of these systems brought in. We're speculating on, he's talking about bringing in also some of the features that have been on popular add-ons, and so he didn't clarify that, but there has been some posts and discussions, so we didn't actually get any of that. I know we were asked about it during the live letter, and I was just wanting to clarify on that right now. Go ahead.
Job adjustments. Keep in mind that we don't get big job adjustment news in part 1 and part 2 of the live letters much anymore, because all it caused was people mauling over it, and we just couldn't keep it under control. So it only ever damaged or kept the same people's view of the patch, and so they've largely pushed a lot of that to the patch notes when the patch goes live. There will be no major overhauls, but there will be minor adjustments to several jobs. This time they didn't even give examples of which jobs, as they have in the past, but their goal is to better moving forward show the intentions behind the job adjustments so that it'll make the decisions clearer and easier to follow. These will be released both on the patch notes and on the guides. The patch notes will link to the job guides so that people can better go track all of that. Yeah. It's also time to adjust crit and direct hit, because it felt weird that if you got a guaranteed crit, that any crit on your gear didn't help you. And so now actions that guarantee crit will add that damage, and so they're going to go kind of above and beyond. So I know as a warrior main, I'm super stoked to see the world's largest fell cleaves. So
yeah,
let's do this.
I think that's some really good information that's coming along the lines. And so yeah, I feel really good about that. I was kind of worried, what are they going to do? But everything they stated there had me positively excited, as opposed to oh, how's this going to work, right? And the fact is, it feels like it's actually going to be taking advantage more of how you choose to kind of spec out your warrior in terms of that. Oh, I already clicked on that.
Yeah. So Rival Wings is coming back.
Yes.
That's what Hidden Gorge is. And then it is time for Series 2 to begin. This is not just seasons. It will also be Season 3. Seasons are a little bit quicker. Series are the big rewards. So if you haven't gotten your gear, go ahead and grind that up. It will be claimable until the end of that series. And they said that those little tombstones would be able to buy it during that as well. So it's not the end of the world if you don't make it to 25. But if me, you're on 21, I should really just buckle down and get those last 4 levels before that.
Yeah.
If you haven't quite finished it. And then there will be quite a few adjustments with Crystalline Conflict as we go into Season 3.
So before, you couldn't D-rank. And now, as a part of Platinum, Diamond, Crystal, you can. Now, it will log your highest level achieved in terms of your rewards. So this, they believe, is going to add in more competition. keeping people kind of playing and jumping in and trying to like go ever higher and play their best, because I think they're seeing people kind of reach a point where like I got it, and then they just kind of they might still queue in, but they're not like actively competing because it doesn't affect them win or lose. So this is going to essentially say that Platinum, Diamond, Crystal, that's going to have that loop there. There is no auto de-leveling. So one of the things that I'm asking, and I'm just generally curious about, is that, well, like what keeps you queuing in, especially if you do not want the risk of de-leveling? Well, part of that is that your highest level reward is whatever you achieve. So if you did get to Crystal, whatever, that's what your technical reward level is. But then the question ends up being like, we'll have to wait and see how that fully impacts the community. So feel free to obviously let us know your thoughts, because I'd love to hear them. We can discuss that later in the show.
When you de-rank, you're just going to go down to the top of the rank below it. So you're not like going down to the bottom of it and having to earn. You're just going down to literally 1 star off. So if you think of those as a more like cohesive spectrum there.
Yeah.
And because of this, I mean, obviously with the next season, we're going to go ahead and start everybody at bronze 3. So you're going to start all the way down at the bottom, and then people will work up, I assume, very, very quickly. Final rankings will be determined by your highest tier, as Brian said. And so you don't have to worry about not getting something because you drop down. The withdrawal mid-duty or after matching is going to be given stricter penalties now. So like in general, they're just trying to make this a better experience. They want people to engage with this. So I hope that people can feel that this is an improvement. In addition to this, I hope there's a lot of changes to the actions and stuff to make sure that the jobs always feel really fresh in there. The new enhanced matchmaking will allow it to make better dynamic adjustments. So hopefully you're also getting better matching. That's always like ranked in games. Even if I'm ranked like bronze, or my brothers always jokingly call it Wood League when we're down at the bottom below bronze. Like that's fine. Then just put me against the other Wood League players. I've always appreciated that. I don't want to be against random diamond players. Just if I'm bad, just tell me I'm bad and let's move on. Let me play with other bad people. And I am bad. So you will be eligible to receive portrait elements, achievements, and titles for all tiers up to and including the highest tier attained during a season. So let's get into seeing some in-game footage here.
Well, in terms of the PvP, because we're still talking about miscellaneous updates, rare materials are added to the ethereal reductions for miner's botanist and the gear for crafted.
And then in a different order than mine.
I don't know. I'm going just down the same list. All right, there we go. So if you guys wanted to know what Carbuncle might have looked like if Pandemonium didn't find them to be too scary, you could now see a image of what they envisioned Carbuncle might have been, which is, I think, so funny. So funny to see that. And so they're kind of willing to reveal that. If you guys are just listening to the audio version, note that it's a massively monstrous and scary beast, but yet you can still see some of the things that, kind of make you think of Carbuncle. So I think it's going to be really cool to see how that plays out in the long run. Then he kind of shows off, obviously, the ring, and if you touch the barrier and stuff like that, you will die. And they show off some mechanics, and that's when
there's diagonal lines on the floor. There's diagonal mechanics. So you start to see, okay, that's one of the things I really appreciate about Savage is as you get to know it, you start to realize the fight is trying to give you the information. They want you to succeed. They're just not going to give it to you.
Yeah. And chat obviously was very much like, can summoners get this one? Can we get that as our Carby summon, please? I still would love to see Carby with a little auto attack, but we'll see. Then they start going into the gear, and we believe this to be the crafted gear. And there's some there's some really cool gear that's coming up here in a minute that I'm very excited about. The Yoshi P did go and confirm that was a part of the raid gear, but based off of what you'll see when I get to it, and I'll just go and jump down because all these images are on the.
Never seen Savage raid gear like this.
Never seen it like this with a visual effect. In this case, the flame sword, and it looks like the fire's coming out of the ears, and the shield's on fire itself. With the chains, and then the Dark Knight having kind of the void, almost this void ends presence. And for me, when he said that it's tied to the raid, in my mind, that this clearly is this the Savage version of it, the normal version. Oh, and then you do the Savage, and all of a sudden you're walking around with a samurai sword that's on fire. Holy freaking crap! I think that's going to be pretty freaking epic, and that's going to be some real what I've heard, like Limit Break Radio talk about gear lust. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
going to be like, okay, like we're doing this, right? We're sticking with this.
So I think that's going to make a lot of people, if that is indeed where it comes from, that's going to make people want to gear up more than just their main character. And
Yeah.
one of the frustrating parts of that is just how many pieces you could acquire per week. So on that note, the Abyssos exchange rate only for Abyssos is going to reduce the amount of mythos required for the equipped gear for your head, hands, and feet are going from 6 to 4 for the number of copies. So that's really exciting. I think that'll help people push through that a little bit faster. Brian and I don't typically do a lot of Savage, but it's seeming like more and more like they're just making the whole thing a little bit easier. Now it's just about the content. They're letting the content kind of stand for its own, and I appreciate that. So we talked about the Omicrons earlier, just a little bit. Obviously, you guys will recognize where this is. This zone is now going to kind of grow and change as you unlock more. This is going to be your gathering area as we kind of take that on. I think that brings up some very interesting lore questions about why we're doing this. There's the mount that Brian mentioned with the space jellyfish, a little different than kind of the way the level checker works.
And this is 6.25. So when people start segmenting the content, Omnicrons are going to be patched 6.25. Right. And they were very clear on that. So it ends up being, I think, very important. But yeah, that space jellyfish is really interesting. And then they went ahead and take their break. So essentially they've kind of just detailed the content on paper. And now what we're going to do is transition into the actual in-game footage of showing off these systems. So again, I feel like this is like a really big chunk of content, especially as we start to get into the Criterion, and they get to show that off here for us as well. So at this point, like, you've kind of had the summary, so hopefully you enjoyed that.